1:48 a.m. on August 13, 2018, the front door of a quiet Colorado home opened and closed. There were no screams, no neighbors rushing outside, no alarms. Inside that silence, a family was erased. Shanann Watts was 34 years old and 15 weeks pregnant. On August 13, 2018, Shanann returned home from a business trip in Arizona at about 2 a.m. She was driven home by her friend and co-worker, Nicole Utoft Atkinson. When she arrived home, Chris Watts was in the house with the girls. By morning, Shanann, her unborn son Nico, and her two daughters, Bella, 4, and Celeste, 3, would be gone. Chris had been having an affair with a co-worker, Nicole Kessinger, and he has a secret app named Calculator on his phone, which he has photos with Nicole. The house showed no signs of a struggle. That detail haunted investigators later. It meant the violence happened in close quarters, quietly, by someone Shanann trusted enough to be vulnerable around. Trust, in this case, became the weapon. After Shanann was killed, Chris did something that makes the case unbearable to revisit. He took his children with him, alive. Bella and Cece sat in the back seat as their mother's body lay nearby, wrapped and motionless. It was still dark when Chris drove nearly an hour to a remote oil field owned by his employer. The sky was beginning to change color when he arrived. One of those calm Colorado mornings where the world looks untouched. What happened next is why the case remains so disturbing even years later. At the oil site, Chris murdered his daughters one by one. Bella, old enough to sense fear, asked questions. That detail alone, documented later, made hardened investigators pause. Afterward, he placed each child into separate crude oil tanks, sealing them inside an environment that ensured their bodies would degrade beyond recognition. Shanann was buried in a shallow grave nearby, face down, discarded. By mid-morning, Chris was back home. After the murders, Chris Watts did not flee. He did not break down. He went to work. This behavior is psychologically revealing. People often expect guilt to manifest as hysteria, but in cases like this, the dominant emotion is often relief, a sense that the problem has been solved. Chris texted coworkers. He answered calls. He appeared calm, almost lighter. Then came the media interviews. On camera, his pleas lacked emotional congruence. His words asked for his family's return, but his body language did not. No tears, no desperation, no authentic fear. This mismatch, known as affective incongruity, is a major red flag in deception analysis. When Shanann failed to show up for a doctor's appointment and stopped responding to messages, her friend sounded the alarm. Police arrived within hours. This speed mattered. It meant Chris didn't have time to clean, plan, or disappear. Body cam footage from that afternoon shows a man unraveling in real time. Chris smiled when he shouldn't. He avoided eye contact. He talked too much and said nothing that made sense. Standing in an empty house, he pleaded on camera for his family to come home, his voice flat, his eyes dry. The evidence piled up fast. Surveillance footage of his truck, phone records, missing bed sheets, inconsistencies that couldn't be explained away. Then came the polygraph. Chris failed. Cornered, he told investigators a story designed to shift blame, that Shanann had killed the girls, and he killed her in rage. It was a lie born of panic, and it collapsed under scrutiny. The truth was worse, and simpler. Under pressure, his fabricated narrative collapsed. And when confronted, he did what many psychologically fragile offenders do. He shifted blame. His initial claim that Shanann killed the children was an attempt to preserve some fragment of moral self-image. In November 2018, Chris Watts pleaded guilty to murdering his wife, his unborn son, and his 2 daughters. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Later prison interviews revealed chilling details, not because they were graphic, but because they were ordinary. He talked about breakfast, about work, about how he didn't know why he did it. There was no grand motive, just an affair, a desire for freedom, and the decision to remove anything that stood in the way. That's what makes the Watts case so deeply unsettling. There was no chaotic criminal past, no obvious warning signs, no stranger breaking in during the night, just a husband who smiled for neighbors, played with his kids, and then methodically erased them to start over. The Watts house still stands. The oil tanks were emptied. Life moved on. But the case remains a reminder of a terrifying truth. Sometimes the most dangerous place is not a dark alley or an abandoned road. It's a home where silence hides intention,